share prices continued to tumble.
Lehman Brothers was forced to declare itself bankrupt.
The largest single point drop.
Well, that is a preview of the new advocacy documentary Inside Job about the financial crisis, narrated by actor Matt Damon. The film Inside Job features interviews with everyone from George Soros to Bill Ackman to Paul Volcker, and also several other marquee players who were involved in the crisis. Well, Oscar-nominated filmmaker Charles Ferguson takes a look at Wall Street's relationships and the conflicts. He joins me now. And Charles, really fascinating documentary here. We were just riveted by, by several scenes in it, particularly those with Rick Mishkin and Glenn Hubbard, which I'll talk about in a second. But there have been so many books out already, so many retrospectives about what happened during this financial crisis. As you were going through making this film, what exactly was it that you wanted to achieve that would be different than what's already out there?
Well, I wanted to achieve several things when I was making Inside Job. The first was that I wanted to show people in general, the general population, not just finance geeks, that just as war is too important to be left to the generals, so too finance is too important to be left to the financiers. That was one goal. Second goal was to provide in a short period of time a very complete, synthetic, general view of the background of what happened, because what happened started and came from many sources before and different from, the particular events of September of 2008. Right. And I wanted to show that background and that context, the entire context of, please.
Yeah, well, some of the context was, when you were interviewing Rick Mishkin, who's a former Fed governor, and you interviewed Glenn Hubbard, what you exposed was this conflict that they had, where they each authored reports on Iceland's financial system. And in fact, Rick Mishkin had authored this report titled "The Stability of the Icelandic Financial System." On what happened, of course, as we all know, is that Iceland then fell into this huge debt pool. And on his CV, he then showed it as the title of this report as "The Instability of the Icelandic Financial System." And not only that, he was paid for this report, something like, what, $125,000 or so. And you exposed this conflict, and yet none of them would admit that to you, right?
Well, they very reluctantly admitted it. When I pushed them, for the most part, they would either refuse to answer, which they frequently did, or they would very, very reluctantly admit that something was true. Yeah, it was very tough getting the truth out of them.
Okay, and from there, what did you?
Quite evasive, I should say.
Right, evasive, which you saw most certainly on film. Was that the most surprising part of doing this documentary, or what was the most surprising part for you?
Well, I think it's going to be the most surprising part of the film to many people. It wasn't surprising to me because I have a prior academic background, and when I was an academic, which was at MIT quite a while ago.
Well, you're a political scientist.
I was a political scientist at MIT. I saw this happening. I saw the beginnings of the rise of this conflict of interest problem in economics and in academia generally, and I saw it becoming worse and worse. So I already knew about that. I think that for me, the most shocking and surprising thing was, well, there were two. One was how utterly unprepared and ignorant the senior people in the United States government were in handling the crisis when the acute crisis came in September 2008. Henry Paulson and Ben Bernanke did not know the nature of foreign bankruptcy laws. They did not know that when they forced Lehman Brothers into bankruptcy, that this would force the immediate closing of Lehman's London office, which would then freeze all the hedge fund accounts, which would then cause this, catastrophic cascade of financial collapse. They didn't know that.
So they just did not know. It was almost the ignorance of it that was.
I was stunned.
Okay.